Alright, so this is kind of like an addendum to my last video, which is should you play Lost Ark. I kind of want to go a little deeper into the current state of Lost Ark updates and how I feel about it. Also, let me know what you think about the audio in this video. I made a pretty big change and I'd like some feedback on it, and I'll kind of reveal what changed next video probably, or maybe through a post, we'll see. So to start this off, this is not a Krispy Kreme. I am not a professional glazer. I cannot make video after video of they cooked, Bigelow a W, fix the game. And this is no offense to any of the other creators who have done this. It's just that, like, after 5 videos of saying they fixed elixirs, did they really fix it those first 4 times? When they do that, that shows a trend of design choices that, hey, they didn't actually want to fix things right away. Instead, they just wanted to make it a little bit less awful time after time after time to see what they can get away with. Though I actually did like one of those they cooked videos once, which was about China and Tencent, but in my defense, they introduced a lot of things that didn't exist on Lost Ark prior, and then, well, it just kind of took that home and reheated that shit. But I want to make it clear to my glazing homies, you guys were right. Like, you're not wrong that these are all good changes. Everything in these patches, every update, everything like that, they have been good for the game. They do objectively make the game better. I am not refuting any of that. I'm going to use elixirs again as an example, is that, hey, they reduced the gold cost, they made it easier, you know, less gold, less time, really great. But it's not like elixirs are unique in that sense. It's not like they're the only thing that take a bunch of gold and a lot of time. Every other power system is going to take a lot of gold. If you're doing any pug raiding, there goes a lot of time doing absolutely nothing. So in their choices of changing and addressing the game to make it better for the players, they, instead of changing core problems with the game of the gold and time it takes to do on all your daily content, they're doing it on a system that you do 1 time per character and then you're done. And that's really my basis of my concerns with the future of Lost Ark with all the updates, is the fact that they are treating symptoms and not the disease. You know it, I know it, we all know it. The actual disease is the monetization. Creating a problem so you can sell a solution. It is by design of this game that you are playing multiple characters. You're doing your dailies on multiple characters. You're doing your weeklies. You're failing your hones and buying materials, hoping that surely that next tap, that's the one. Yeah, not a gambling problem at all. You are to create these habits and normalize spending an obscene amount of time playing this game. So let me tell you about a friend of mine. She says here that she does not see herself as a hardcore player for Lost Ark. Guess her hours. Go on, guess, take a moment, think about it. Her Steam hours is 9,205. You do the math since launch, that is almost 10 hours a day. So she is nearing a 70-hour work week on just playing Lost Ark. Not hardcore at all, by the way, also not a job. You're just playing at the time of almost 2 full-time jobs playing this one game. This is what's left. This is what your average Lost Ark player is, playing it day in and day out. And by the way, I'm not hardcore. Like Cotty says, every Lost Ark player is just extremely autistic, but I also think that we just have insane amount of Stockholm Syndrome. And Korea is even worse when it comes to Stockholm Syndrome. Like, when we were upset about $50 poses, they were upset that we were upset about $50 poses because they had to spend like $200. That's like pay piggy mentality. Like, it is just insane that they will question people and not the system. Going back to your average Lost Ark player though, yeah, we're just insane. We played this game in an unhealthy amount, and I was the same for the longest time. I played this game as a work from home Andy, and I did my dailies all the time. I was pretty much always sitting in a chaos dungeon. If I had a little bit of downtime, a couple minutes here, I would do a floor chaos. And I know a lot of other people who did this game playing while work from home because, you know, this game came out during COVID, a lot of times when a lot of jobs did transition to work from home. And during then, and even now when I'm not working from home, what am I doing when I'm doing Chaos Dungeon or doing my dailies or whatever it is? I'm watching YouTube, I'm watching a stream. This is just normalized for everybody who's playing these games. Which is kind of weird because this is a game. We're supposed to be doing it for fun. But instead, we're not playing the game for fun. We're playing it because it's something we had to do to get to the fun part. But even that fun part becomes dull after you clear the raid 6 times a week every week. But the point I'm making is nobody is like fully paying attention to the game. Even the streamers, what are they doing? They're sitting there shitting on chat, sometimes getting gnomed. And that is just how you quote unquote play Lost Ark these days. And no matter how many changes they do to your daily content, they can't fix it. Everything in this game is well crafted around monetization. Which at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is. Because at the core of every developer and publisher, it's a company out there to make money. But this overall kind of monetization method usually doesn't bode too well in the West. This is the type of game that ends up very niche in the West with a very small player base. We're talking like triple digit. But you end up in a situation where it's only like the mega whales left and they're just here funding the game because they're just throwing everything they have into it. And a lot of the times when I'm yapping and talking about this kind of stuff, this is the timeline I want to avoid, is the only whales. A game where it's just really catered to the hardcore audience. It doesn't welcome in new players well enough. It is just slowly hemorrhaging to death as you make a game that doesn't bring in new players enough to replace the ones that do quit. Because guess what? everybody's going to quit eventually. And I know attempts have been made, like we have solar raids, we have the Ignite servers coming in. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. No, I still do think that like the big quitting X factor in this game is still just how much time it takes to play and maintain your character, your roster in this game. Now, in their defense, in Smilegate's defense, they have made attempts to reduce the amount of things you had to do. They did reduce Guardians from 2 to 1. In Tier 4, Chaos will go 2 to 1. But at the same time, it's like, hey man, my 10 minutes a daily on this one character went down to 7 minutes because I only do one Chaos. But guess what? I still have to do this on multiple characters every day. And chances are, if you're like a super hardcore Lost Ark player, you're going to be like, well, I might have got that time back, but hey, I could just use that time to do it on another character instead. And obviously that latter half there is a player problem. That is a habit they have created, but it is also because of the design of the game. But the point I'm making is that they did try, but yeah. Now I want to make it clear, no matter what I say, what anybody else says, this isn't like just a super easy thing to fix. It's not like just do this. Feedback is a sign of a problem. It shows that the problem does exist, but you don't usually want to listen to just consumers on how to fix it because generally they have a very narrow view. They don't see the whole thing. Like if you have a guy who played 5 Glaviers, told him, hey, balance the game, guess what? Glavier's probably going to be really broken. And I got to throw this out here one more time because I just gotta. RMT is a direct reflection on monetization. The worst and more egregious that the monetization is, the more aggressive the RMT is going to be, the more reasonable it seems for a lot of people to do it. That is why I said in that last video that I bet 80% of the community RMTs, and honestly, I was being kind of generous with that. It's probably more at this point. Like when you RMT, you're probably unironically getting your like Diablo for Mortal 700% value. And this is not like an ad to RMT, like not an ad, I swear, don't RMT. If you think you need to RMT in a game, for the love of God, just quit. Now, I feel like I need to talk about raid difficulty a little bit here. Because the truth is, even if they did all these changes to aggression and casualized it and made it so people can actually get to the end game, we still end up with people at the end game, which is generally the other big problem of the game. The truth is, this community, we gatekeep raids because they are punishing. One guy can turn your 30-minute run into a 3-hour jail that you had to finish tomorrow and hope that you don't get another jail. I do think for your average and casual video game player, Lost Ark is probably going to be too challenging. Which in an MMO, that's a big problem because that first M is for massive and you can't have a massive game if it's just going to be a huge wall for people. And let's be honest, Rehearsal was a failure. Solo raids, I do think is good. Solo raids are really good for the game. However, you're never going to be at the end game with solo raids unless they do make a major change to that. You're always going to be 3 raids behind. In my opinion, solo raids is basically just a catch-up mechanic. It's not really an intended way to go through the end game, and I think that is kind of a problem. So overall, I do think that is something that needs really good look at too, to make the game be more accessible towards newer players. Maybe it is to make solo raids go up to current content. Maybe it is to add a new difficulty, kind of like WoW LFR, and make it more puggable, more matchmakeable. Like there are clear signs that these are problems, so we'll see if they ever come up with a solution. At the end of the day, I want Lost Ark to be a game that people can jump into without regrets and still experience the high points. As outlined in this video, my concern is that the progression is still way too steep and the difficulty is going to be a bit too much for newer players to get acclimated into the game. Something like Jumpstart Ignite servers, while they sound like a great thing, they're just speedrunning people to the endgame gatekeeping, which is why I really can't just pogface over that. And history has shown that Smilegate really doesn't want to make major changes. That's what really worries me the most, is they tend to just do small incremental changes, seeing what they can get away with. They're doing the minimal. And it's not minimal because they want to be lazy. It's minimal because they want to milk you. But at the same time, I have this little glimmer of hope here because now we have AGS talking more. They're talking about how they're having conversations with Smilegates, doing changes. We're getting some of those changes China got. They claim that we're going to get more changes for the West specifically. I want to hope that Lost Ark can have this relationship with the community that the First Ascendant does with theirs. When there's like a large amount of feedback for something specific in that game, you get developers responding to that within weeks, maybe even just days. That kind of connection that you have with a developer is just something really great. It gives that kind of reassurance that they care about the community and that they will ultimately make better or right choices. And again, I really want to hope that Lost Ark can take a step into that direction, that AGS can finally start setting themselves really apart from the other versions of the game. Because at the end of the day, like, we're just not Korea. And for the West to have the kind of success that they see in Korea, we need a client that caters to us. And I hope if I'm still making Lost Ark content in a year that I can look back at this video and talk about it and talk about how Lost Ark has changed from today. Or unfortunately, if it hasn't at all, we'll find out. But anyways, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like, sub, never stop giving feedback to devs, but just don't be a bitch about it.